and Susan, thank you for being here for SPAR's Better and Better podcast, Beyond the Stats. I'm Jennifer Kovacic, the Communications Director and Staff Liaison with the Communications Committee here at SPAR. And I am with Lynn Violet. And in a minute, I'll have you introduce yourself, and with Susan Mull. And if you could each just give a quick introduction of who you are, that'd be great.
Sure. Thank you so much for having both of us here. But I'm Lynn Violet. I've been with Movement Mortgage for several years, I think 10 years as of May, in the industry for about 23.
Awesome. Nice.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wow. Hi, I'm Susan Mull. With RE/MAX Advantage Plus. I've been in the industry. I'm a realtor since 2006. So, yay, thanks for having us.
Thank you. And you both serve on the Communications Committee here at SPAR, and it's great to be able to kind of come together and talk stats. So let's just jump into it. November was a welcome relief for some as rates eased a bit from being over 8% in mid-October to around 7% by the end of November. And in fact, we saw mortgage rates hit a 23-year high in October. Fortunately, rates have decreased since, and we'll talk a little bit more about current rates because we've seen some positive shifts in just the last few days here as we get more into this podcast. But first, let's reflect on the November market. Prices rose slightly, and the median sales price increased 2% to $362,000. The year, for the most part, showed 1% to 2% increases in price growth overall. And there are a few reasons that can be attributed to the rising prices. And maybe you'll have more that you can share. But first, we saw a trend in inventory shortages as homeowners have opted to remain in their homes with favorable rates. People just not really wanting to take that step when they had a lower rate. Mm-hmm. Also, activity was skewing toward the higher end of the market, as today's buyers tend to be a little bit more financially well off, and often, when possible, they're using cash for their home purchases. And this includes some of the higher priced homes. Yes. And lastly, luxury activity continues to outperform. And as we're seeing everywhere, new construction activity is really booming. The new construction, with sales up 22.3%, which is pretty significant. As we all know, buyers have been feeling the results of low inventory, higher prices, and raising rates for much of 2023. So hopefully this recent shift to some lower rates is a sign of hope for them. And with that, I'd love to just kind of jump into some questions for both of you. Susan, I'll start with you. What has your experience been with buyers in recent weeks?
Actually, in recent weeks, it's pretty good, actually. I think buyers are getting excited. They're getting to a point where they want to buy homes. I have a few, for examples, that are very, very, very excited for the new year and not even looking at rates per se. They're just getting ready to get into a home. That's what I am seeing. I don't know what everyone else is, but buyers that I am working with are just getting excited. They just want to get into a house.
That's really great.
Yeah.
I mean, good welcome news, right?
Mm-hmm.
In November, kind of going back to that, sellers listed 3,657 properties on the market. This was a 5.3% increase from November a year ago in 2022. Mm-hmm. And sellers, I know earlier this year they were receiving almost close to what they were asking, but sellers were accepting 97.4% of their asking price, which was up from a year ago, but down from 2021. So I know we've seen a little bit of fluctuation there over the couple of years, but still pretty good asking prices. Back to you, Susan, another question. And I'm always curious to know how realtors answer this, but how do you coach buyers in helping them make their decisions?
Well, first off, I do coach them I make sure they're aware that they have to have all of their finances in order. Get them to talk to a lender, one of the things. And I know lenders talk to them about their taxes, getting all those things together before they get them send them back to me to get them out to home. I make sure they get all of those things together. The taxes, the W-2s, all those things. Get those things, take them to their lenders, and get those things together before they come back to me, before we go out looking at homes. I don't let them, they get excited, and sometimes they get too excited. They want to go out right now, And of course, they cannot go out right now unless they're pre-approved.
Sure.
And if they're not pre-approved, I'm not taking them out because it makes no sense going into something before you know what you can actually work with.
And not being able to take action.
Exactly.
Sure.
Can't take action. So I make sure they have all the ducks in a row and all that. First step, talk with your lender. Don't get into a car unless you know. Talk with a lender. And then I take them out. But I do coach them and make sure they take their first steps first before we move forward.
Perfect. Thanks for sharing. I know you talked a little bit about some of your buyers excited to start 2024 off in a home. Mm-hmm. What are you seeing on the seller side?
Well, I actually had 2 listing appointments recently who did tell me everything was nice. And they are waiting till the spring.
Okay.
They're waiting till the spring, which we are actually moving forward, but they're not listing till the spring.
Okay.
So we are getting things ready, getting the houses ready for the spring market. So that's what I am going through right now. They're getting the houses ready for the spring market. So
okay.
So that's what I'm.
So
but they're excited. I'm getting them excited.
Movement in progress,
Movement
right?
in progress, yeah. So that's what I'm going through right now.
Well, awesome. Well, hopefully that'll be a good story for them.
It will be a good story.
It always is, right?
Yes.
I want to talk a little bit about the impact of mortgage rates on, I guess, really the monthly payments and just how that's significant. And Lynn, I'd love to ask you if you can share what you're hearing and seeing with clients today.
As a matter of fact, today was a great day. I've had several people reach out today because they're hearing about the Fed's dropping rates. Mm-hmm. And so even though that's not a direct correlation when they drop the rate with the mortgage-backed securities, everyone gets excited when they hear that. So I have a few clients that reached out today already about refinancing, but people that want to buy also because they're very excited. They're seeing movement in the market, and it's getting them, excited, and they're calling me saying, hey, can we get pre-approved? And I'm like, okay, we need to start out with this. And especially with like the self-employed borrowers are kind of wrapping up the year, I always recommend that they really look at their expenses and perhaps consult with a mortgage consultant to make sure that they're not writing too much of their business off, where they're not going to qualify, and kind of setting themselves up for success versus failure when they think, I want to not pay the taxes to the government, but if you don't pay the taxes to the government, you're not going to have qualifying income either. So it's a double-edged sword. So I've had a few conversations in the last week about that. But yeah, I'm starting to see a lot of activity. Today alone, I think I've had 10 phone calls. So it's been a little crazy.
And obviously we're 3 weeks into December right now. Mm-hmm. So how does this busyness of today and recent days compare to October and November for you?
Actually, this fourth quarter of the year has been very, very successful for Jordan and I, our team. We've had a lot of success with people going out and shopping. We really encouraged it because there was a shift in the rates and things continuing to drop. It also gives them more purchase power because we went from a seller's market to somewhat of a buyer's market right now.
Okay.
I would say 90% of our contracts that have come in the last quarter of this year have come in with sellers paying the closing cost. So that's another positive thing that we will probably not see here in about 30 days from now. So I think the market's going to shift very quickly again after the first of the year.
Okay. Well, you kind of answered it. I was going to ask you, so what is kind of the feeling with clients and people that you're working with? But you kind of are saying there's a lot of positivity. Oh,
absolutely. And I think, again, we've been encouraging people to get pre-approved now and get out there and shop. Even with the lower inventory in the homes, I keep reminding our clients that, there's a lot of, equity that can be built in real estate. Sometimes the real estate market is recently, actually over the last year, done better than the stock market in certain situations. But basically, what I also recommend is that right now, when rates drop, there's going to be more competition. More competition means higher home prices. And that's the one thing that I keep reminding everyone, jump on right now. If you've been on the fence, it's time to climb over the fence and get pre-approved today and start looking, because it's going to happen. It's going to change, and things are going to be very different in 30 to 60 days from now.
For sure.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. I guess this question could be for either of you, but are you seeing people open to, we're hearing that the new construction is kind of booming. Mm-hmm. There's a little bit more of an inventory shortage with some existing homes. Are you seeing people open to both options, or does it just vary?
I can answer that. Basically, we do have people that are interested in new construction right now. The builders are often offering these great interest rates as incentives with their forward commitments, and purchasing that rate in bulk through their preferred lender. And that's what's happening, is a lot of people are going, oh, well, maybe we should go look at new construction now instead of looking at an existing home, because the lenders that work with the builders are offering these great rates. The one thing you want to make sure of is that you do qualify. There's some pretty strict guidelines with those advertised rates that they do give. But yes, a lot of people are interested in the new construction. And we are working with a few of the small to mid-sized builders right now to get them set up for some of these interest rate promotions coming forward that the bigger builders have been offering as well.
Okay. Well, that's interesting. I wouldn't have known. Mm-hmm. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Only that people are levitating to new constructions because they sometimes can put their own touches on the homes themselves, because it's their first-time home buyer or something like that. Not the lending side, but on the purchasing side of being a new house, the new home smell, things like that, like a new car smell, new home smell, in that sense. Not the lending side, but a lot of people are wanting to buy a brand new house.
Sure.
In that sense.
And we can all relate to that new car smell, right? You talked a little bit about predictions, Lynn, kind of that 30 to 60 days from now. Obviously none of us have that crystal ball, but just, in terms of what we're seeing and thinking may happen. Are there any other things that you want to comment on, or expectations of things you think might be coming down the road?
Well, I can tell you, just from my experience in the industry, we've been in an inflationary period. We've seen things become very expensive for all of us. And so what's happened whenever we're in an inflationary period is usually follows a recession. We're also coming into an election year. And so historically, what I have seen in my career is that rates tend to come down when we're in a recession, as well as in an election year. So I think this next 12 months is going to be probably one of the craziest in my career, because we're coming off a very high interest rate, and the feds have now announced publicly that they're going to be dropping the rates. So I believe that there's going to be a lot of competition on the real estate side as far as multiple offers and, shortage of inventory, as in Minnesota, our seasons kind of flow with the housing market. In the winter, people don't want to move. Mm-hmm. In the spring, after, the first of the year, people are thinking, oh, let's start looking for new homes. And then they get their taxes done, and then people get their taxes done, and they have money to spend on a down payment. And so it's just a cycle that repeats itself. But I think this year it's going to be a wild ride.
It's going to be wild. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're so right. And then you'll have people who want to get in the home before the kids start school. And
Exactly. It's a cycle. It's just that big cycle every year. It starts from the beginning of the spring till beginning of summer. It's just that this big flux of low inventory, high demand kind of things. It happens every single year.
Yeah, and we're going to see a lot more people refinancing and taking cash out and possibly investing in real estate now that the rates have come down. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be kind of it's going to be a cycle. There's going to be people wanting to do refinances that are going to be pushing the lenders, and there's going to be all the people that are going to want to be working into the market and buying their first home. We know that there's going to be more first-time home buyer money being released from some of the cities and counties after the first of the year, so there's lots of money coming out, and there's lots of information. So I always recommend, start as soon as you can. You can never start the process of being, pre-approved soon enough.
Exactly.
So if we can work to put them in the best position possible by fixing their credit or helping them, even if they're not willing to purchase or ready to purchase for another, 3 to 6 months, I always recommend starting right away, because if there's something we can do to get you prepared, we will do that. And we have several different options that we can offer too with this crazy market. We're going to see a lot of people, it'll become a seller's market again. People will be foregoing inspections and surrendering their earnest money and putting in appraisal, clauses and gap coverage and all kinds of weird strategies that people believe are wonderful to get them into a home, when in all reality, it's not always the greatest position for the home buyer. So it could be for the seller, but not so much for the buyer. So we will probably be seeing that shift again, probably, like I said, within the next 30 days for sure.
Okay.
It hurts them in the long run.
Very interesting. And I guess a little plug for SPAR then. At SPAR.com, there are resources. I mean, you talk about some of the different programs out there, and I'm always amazed. It seems like counties and cities and, government programs, et cetera, there really are so many if you just start looking into them.
Yes.
So, well, I wanted to just go back a little bit and share just kind of a snapshot of some of the facts that we saw. And again, this is for the month of November 2023. Buyers signed 2,807 purchase agreements in November, and there were 3,261 closed sales. Previously owned sales were down 3.7%, and as we already talked about, new construction sales were up quite a bit, 22.3% to be exact. Single-family homes had decreased 1.8%. Townhome sales were down 4.9%, and condo sales were up. They were up 12.7%. Sales in the housing market that were under 500,000 decreased 5.3%, and sales in the 500,000 and above market were actually up 16.7%. And it seems like over the course of the last year or so, that luxury market or the higher price homes, that is where we saw more of an increase. And days on the market, on average, remained flat at 40 days. So that's kind of a snapshot and synopsis of November 2023. If either one of you have anything else you want to add, that would be great. If not, we can wrap it up either way.
I'm happy to share. We have had a few people that we've worked with over this past year, and 6 months ago, they could not have purchased a home if they wanted to because their affordability was under the $200,000 mark. And in this last quarter, we've had a lot of those people that had been working so hard for 6, 8, 10, 12 months to get into a home. They are finally closing this month with us, and it's been an amazing time for us to see how wonderful this has been for them. And the process has been long and daunting, but they never let themselves get down because we were constantly there cheering them on. And we've got, for example, we have someone closing tomorrow that I've worked with for like a year and a half.
Wow.
And we helped him fix his credit. He did everything we asked him to do. He was patient, and he found the home that he wanted, and he's closing tomorrow morning. And then we had another single father that had closed earlier in the month. He had never been a homeowner, and he's in his mid-40s, and he just wanted a new home for his daughter for Christmas, and we helped him as well. So
That's so awesome.
That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Two really bright lights at the end of the tunnel, it
yes,
sounds like.
for sure.
But what
Very
I do
cool.
find a lot of people today is taking home ownerships to that level, and a lot of people are doing investments. I find a lot of people are going into homeowner investments into real estate. I find that a lot these days, which is amazing.
And it sounds like we might see a little more of that
A
coming.
lot of that's coming
up.
because of what's going to happen in the new year. So
That's awesome. Well, you guys, thank you both for being here. It's always so fun to do this. I learn a lot. I'm sure whoever's listening and watching learns a lot too. And just to hear the different stories and things that you're experiencing. So I guess I'll just say as we conclude this month's Beyond the Stats, thanks to everyone who tuned in. Lynn, Susan, thank you for being here, and
Thanks for
Happy
having
New
us.
Year.
Happy New
Same
Year.
to you, and
Thank
thanks for having
Thank
us.
you.
Yeah, thank you all.
Thank you, guys.